Hi, friends. Welcome to my new Wisdom Tree Soulcast. I'm Dr. Jeannie. I'm a historian and a spiritual minister and coach. Some of you may remember working with me before COVID, and I've been on a bit of a hiatus because I had to close my studio and stay home like a lot of us experienced. Before COVID, I was working with women on building their dream lives and on moving forward through unexpected life changes and moving through the phases in life. During the pandemic, I decided I would take some of my own advice and I went back to college to finish my degree in history. Now, you guys know that I have a ministerial degree, a ministerial doctorate, but I really love history and especially religious history, the history of spirituality, the history of societies, and how they create their religions. So I think it worked well together. I graduated in May, and so now I've come back to restart my business full time. A lot of what I've been doing is meditating. Um, where we are as a society since the pandemic, how I can use my gifts to help. We've had about a year since we took off the masks and we got back to real life, right? But in this last year, we probably should have taken some time to process everything that happened. All the lives lost and this global tragedy that happened. How do we feel about that? How do we feel about the way it was handled? And we have big feelings on all ends of the spectrum about the way it was handled and the way we feel we were treated during this tragedy. Um, and we need to reflect on our own behavior during this time. Um, how did we act as individuals and as a society? How did we do? Were we civilized? I don't know if you'd call it civilized the way we fought over toilet paper, right? Did we care for our sick? Let the old people die. Not so sure. Did we learn our lessons? Did we change at all? Did we grow as people after coming through this experience? And that's kind of where I'm at right now in this where can I help in the world kind of process. Where is the need for help? Because unfortunately, I'm not really coming up with good conclusions to these answers to the questions I've been asking myself, like, did we behave civilized? I think the fact that this worldwide pandemic was politicized, it it took away some of our humanity during this tragic event. We chose sides and we saw people as enemies instead of coming together as a society, as one, to help each other survive it. Um, I'm not seeing where there was a lot of spiritual growth during this time. I see a lot of hatred. I see a lot of blame. I see a lot of dividing up into self-righteous teams. And I wonder, why didn't we embrace each other? Metaphorically, of course, because we got the 6 feet distance between each other, right? But, you know, there was a lot of loss of life. We lost some freedoms for a while. People died in really horrible ways. And our response was anger. And I'm asking myself, why were we tearing each other apart? Why did we choose to take sides instead of being one? Um, why didn't we follow our own religious and spiritual teachings? Is this what our prophets would have done? I can only talk about my experience in the US. And for me, it's leadership, like all around leadership. Everybody that we pay to be leaders, everybody we elect to be leaders, everybody we put in these positions of leadership. They're all out for what they can get, are they not? And even our spiritual leaders are preaching hate from the pulpit. We hate because our leaders hate. We hold self-serving beliefs because our leaders are holding self-serving beliefs. And I'm not going to beat around the bush here. Let's get to some truth. Let's be blunt about it. All of these leaders, all of these folks, they're leaders in a patriarchal system. I know. Oh God, another man hater. No, it's not that. Because patriarchy doesn't mean men. Patriarchy means masculine energy. If you've seen an image of the yin and the yang, half of that is masculine, half of that is feminine. Nowhere in that does it say man and woman. It's energy. And women are very active in the patriarchy. Women are very masculine. In fact, women have had to subdue their femininity to survive in a patriarchal world. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole on that, but I just wanted to clarify, I don't hate men. I appreciate everything that men do for our world. I appreciate my husband and the way he helps me and helps our family. And so this is not man bashing. This is about energy. This is about the fact that this masculine energy in our world doesn't have a feminine energy to say, maybe you should rethink that war. Maybe you should rethink making slaves. Maybe that's not a good thing. Like, if we just go into our house where you have a mom and a dad, I know not every house has that. A lot of broken families. But think about a family that has a mom and a dad in a house. The dad wants to go buy a motorcycle, right? Or a sports car. And the mom's like, we're saving to go to Disney World next year. So that's not really a good idea. So you've got a voice standing up to the other voice, not necessarily mom and dad, not necessarily masculine, feminine, but you've got someone to keep each other in check. It can be the other way. Mom wants to spend money on a designer purse or a designer pair of shoes, and dad's like, remember, we want to send our kids to camp this summer, or whatever the situation is. You've got that balance, right? And a lot of our homes don't have that balance. And you can tell it. Moms and dads who are single parents try to be both, and it's just not. Just most of the time, it just doesn't work, right? And that's what I'm seeing here. I'm seeing that our leadership throughout this pandemic was all patriarchal energy. We didn't have a matriarch. We didn't have a mom energy to come and help get us through that. And we haven't had that for a really long time. But I don't want to really give a talk today on masculine and feminine energy, but I wanted to say that I see a problem in our leadership. I see a gap in our leadership. And this is the lightning bolt that struck me. The divine inspiration that came to me in meditation is that we need leaders who can tap into that energy and model things like self-awareness, good communication, truth, justice, wisdom, sacrifice, right? These things that we associate with feminine energy. Okay. And as I'm getting my business running, and I'm like, well, who can I talk to? Who do I talk to about this? Who is going to step up and be a leader that's going to be a matriarchal kind of leader, who can do that? And I thought about tribes. I thought about ancient tribes. I thought about even indigenous tribes in America. Now, this is where my history comes in. Tribes in America where there were the wise women, the wise elder women who advised the tribe on how to make a decision, what decisions to make. And I realized, like, we need wise women. We need wisdom keepers, wise women of the tribe to step forward and lead and advise the masculine, rein in the masculine so that it's not toxic. This simple idea. It's simple, right? We just need women to step up. Simple, right? Well, why hasn't it happened if it's so simple? But here's the thing. We have a generation of women who raised themselves, who helped raise their siblings, who learned how to problem solve on their own at a very young age. A generation of women who were wise before their time. They were 30 years old when they were 12. Women who believed in the American dream, the first generation of women who thought the American dream was for them too. They bought into it, hook, line, and sinker. And now, average age of like 54, I'm like the average age for a Gen X woman. We see some of our autonomy being taken away, steps backwards to put us back in the cage. Because we sat biding our time. We were invisible. We were silent. We did not claim our power. We quietly tried to get a foothold in this masculine world. But we were up against a generation above us that was 1.5 times our size. And our men, our Gen X men went through this too. Like, where are the Gen X men leaders? You know, we still have baby boomers in the White House. We still have baby boomers controlling Congress. We have still have baby boomers writing the laws and judging the laws. Because even now, in their older age, they still have more people than we do in their generation. And we've had a hard time coming in and establishing our power and authority. But something's happening with Gen X women right now. We're basically in our 40s and 50s. Our kids are grown up or they're almost grown up. We've finished our schooling. We've become established in our careers. And we're transitioning from that mother phase. You know, women have the maiden phase, the mother phase, the crone. If you don't like crone, you could say sage. If you don't like sage, you could say wise woman. Matriarch. It's our birthright, Gen X women, to claim that matriarch position. And we were gifted with independence and wisdom from a very young age. We were wise before our time. And the time for us to step up is now. The time for us to lead is now. But first, we got to finish healing some of this patriarchal bullshit that we have in our heads, some of these paradigms, some of these limiting beliefs that we have in our heads about ourselves as women. We got to heal the traumas of the past that we haven't healed because we've been in survival mode our entire lives, because we raised ourselves. We couldn't depend on anybody else. We couldn't trust anybody else. We got to come back down off of that survival mode. We got to open ourselves up. We got to understand that we don't have to be so strong. We can be vulnerable. And in that vulnerability is our wisdom, is our matriarchal wisdom, our birthright wisdom. And it's time. It's time for us to step into that. The world needs us. Our country needs us. We need a voice to go up against the toxic masculinity that is causing us to fight each other. We're at war in this country because there's no matriarchal voice. And it's our time. We're that age. We are in the transition right now from mother to wise woman. Some of us are there. Some of us have grandchildren. Okay. Some of us, our kids are married. Some of us are there. Some of us as grandmothers, we are the family matriarch. You don't have to be a grandmother to be a matriarch. We just have to have the freedom to be vulnerable and access our wisdom, our spiritual wisdom. And this was the divine inspiration I got, guys. This was what the universe said to me in meditation. This is your path. Start the discussion. Start the discussion with other women on how to empower themselves, to empower their femininity, to empower their matriarchy. I got a lot to say on this because I'm going to tell you what, I was raised by my dad with all brothers in an all-boy neighborhood. I am one of the least feminine girls you would ever meet in your life. And this has been an issue for me. This has been my main my main thing to heal. And I've studied a lot about masculine, feminine energy. And there was a reason. There was a reason I had the childhood I had, so that I could sit here today and go, yeah, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only girl that subdued her femininity. I'm not the only girl that grew up without a family matriarch. I'm not the only girl that grew up in Gen X without a feminine influence. Not the only Gen X girl who had to fit in to a new masculine system where women went to work. I had a lot to say on it, and I want you to come and discuss it with me. I want you to join me. So this is going to be my new path. I'm going to discuss other spiritual things too. I'm a minister. I'm a spiritual minister. So there's going to be a lot of topics that we talk about, but I just wanted to tell you I'm back and this is my direction. And if this interests you, if women's empowerment, if feminine empowerment interests you, then come along with me. Follow me. Let's talk about it. Let's figure this out together. Let's step in to our roles as the country's matriarchy. Let's rise up as the matriarchs. That's our birthright. All right. So glad to be back. Glad to talk to you all again. And I will see you next week. Bye-bye.